Hello friends, if you're new, welcome to my channel. How about going down, hitting the subscribe button and ringing the bell so you don't miss any episodes. For my fans and subscribers, welcome back. Thank you for the patronage. Today I'm going to talk about the witch hysteria time forgot. What if I told you that there was witch hysteria in the New World before Salem? That's right, people. There was a witch hunt in the New World before the Salem Witchcraft Trials. This is the witch hysteria time forgot, and I'm going to tell you, maybe not all about it, but enough about it. Not much else I need to say. Let's get on with the video. The American colonies conducted witchcraft trials in the 17th century. Connecticut holds the dubious honor of carrying out America's first execution for witchcraft in 1647, 45 years before Salem hanged Bridget Bishop. The Connecticut witch hysteria spanned several decades as opposed to Salem's 7 months, and ultimately, proportionately, that witch hunt was deadlier, having 11 out of 34 people executed. So, if this was the first witch panic in the New World, why has it been forgotten? We lack records, to be honest, which is part of the reason. As of now, we don't have any diaries from those accused or those present at the trials. In addition, the majority of the documents no longer exist. The few court papers and depositions that have survived are housed in the archives of the Connecticut Historical Society and at Brown University's John Hay Library. However, through the slow, laborious work of historians, as well as descendants of those accused, a narrative is finally taking shape. We know now, through the evidence that has survived, that at least 50 colonists were suspected, with 34 being formally accused. However, historians believe that the number was higher. Many fled to other colonies before they could be formally charged because they probably knew what awaited them. First, a note on vocabulary. Historically, a witch hunt was not a pursuit of identified witches. Rather, these searches generally took place after suspicions were raised, and the goal was to find persons in league with the devil. At this time, suspicions could be raised by just about anything, including weather. Puritans saw Satan as a very real threat. All Puritans, including Connecticut's first colonists, believed that the devil caused crops to fail, rain not to fall, among other things. They blamed Satan for everything from sickness to early snowfall. Their preachers taught that only those who strictly obeyed God's laws and lived simple, pious lives could resist temptation. Those with weak resolve or faith were more susceptible to Satan's snares. Women were particularly vulnerable because, as we all know, Eve ate the fruit first. Anthropologists know that almost all cultures feared witchcraft. In England, when the Puritans left, witch hunts were common and believed to be necessary in order to protect good, faithful people. The Puritans settled Connecticut in 1636. Just 11 years later, the colony executed America's first convicted witch, Alice Youngs. No record exists of her life, indictment, trial, and execution. She would have been lost to time had it not been for John Winthrop. He stated in his journal from the spring of 1647 that someone from Windsor was executed. We did not even know her name until 1904, when historians found the diary of the second colonial town clerk of Windsor. John Winthrop, governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, had mentioned that one from Windsor was arraigned and executed in Hartford. Back then, the village of Hartford served as home to the particular court. This court convened every 3 months and tried all serious cases. Alice's trial and execution almost certainly took place here. Many believe that she was hanged at the location of today's Old State House, but most later hangings occurred by today's Dutch Point. In colonial times, it was important that others witnessed the hangings. It's unlikely that anyone was executed for witchcraft in Connecticut before Alice, since the colony had no capital laws prior to 1642, although due to lack of records, it is possible. Because we lack records, there are lots of questions, like how Alice was suspected of witchcraft in the first place. However, since there was not much systematic record-keeping at the time, unless we find forgotten diaries or papers, we will never know. We do know that, like in England, witchcraft was a capital offense in the American colonies, punishable by death if convicted. Yes, that's spelled correctly. The 12 capital laws of colonial Connecticut were based on literal interpretations of the Bible, with the number 1 offense being the worship of anything but God. The second capital offense was being a witch. People, this is the problem with literal interpretations of the Bible. According to European folklore, familiar spirits, or familiars, were demons that appeared in the form of common animals to carry out a witch's bidding and to act as a go-between for witches and supernatural evil entities like Satan. Examining accused witches physically was common. Among other marks, examiners would look for a quote-unquote witch's teat, from which people believed demons could feed. I suppose we can be grateful that burning at the stake was never enacted in the American colonies. No evidence can be found that any person accused of witchcraft in Connecticut was physically tortured like those in Europe, but psychological torture such as sleep deprivation, isolation, and intense psychological pressure were definitely used. In a handful of cases, the infamous water test was used. The accused would be bound and thrown into a lake or a river. If the suspect sank, it proved her innocence, but if she floated, she was pronounced guilty. Great! No way to get out of that one alive. The critical factor behind this hysteria was fear. In fact, fear was an inescapable part of life in early New England. Farming required people to work from dawn to dusk, while colonists ran the constant risk of losing goats to wildlife and crops to flooding. Flu and smallpox epidemics in 1647 and 1648 led to the deaths of many settlers. Then there were the Native Americans, who the colonists feared as much as Satan himself. The Pequot captured and killed 9 Wethersfield colonists in 1637. There was also a lot of religious dissent at this time, leading many colonists to demand ousting ministers, while other settlers called for relocation to Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and other colonies. Those who stayed were subjected to sermons on how suffering manifested God's anger. Puritans believed people were predestined to heaven or hell, so asking forgiveness or pleading for mercy was senseless. They also believed that there was no way of knowing who would become a witch and who wouldn't. Natives practicing what they believed to be sorcery only exacerbated their fears. One aspect of Puritan life that we would find intolerable today was that, in way of criminal charges, facts did not matter as much as emotion and imagination. Colonists were also encouraged to be busybodies and spy on their neighbors. Connecticut based their witchcraft guidelines on those created 400 years earlier in Europe, including, but not limited to, Common Report of the People, Notorious in Nature, testimony of a fellow witch at trial or death is grounds for examination, but not conviction. Also in the guidelines, we have if the suspect has devil marks and can't explain them. So I'm guessing birthmarks. And if someone is close to an accused witch. Wow, so if you're the sister of an accused witch, you can be accused too. That doesn't make any sense. Women were particularly vulnerable to this charge, as in Europe. People also tended to be middle-aged, with a low social position, outspoken, or contentious. How dare a woman speak her mind? Get back into the kitchen and pop out babies like you're supposed to. Married women were frequently accused by their husbands. Imagine that. And rich widows were especially vulnerable, especially if they had large plots of land. Well, friends, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you especially enjoyed learning about the witch hysteria that time forgot. I believe it is important for us to remember these victims, and I think it's a timely subject with, the month of Halloween. There's more on the Connecticut Witch Trials to come. If you like this kind of content, hit the like button, press the subscribe button, and ring the bell so you don't miss anything. My Twitter, Discord, email, PayPal, and website are in the description, along with the source that I used for this episode. If you wish to contact me, Twitter is the best way, followed by email. Keep learning and searching for truth. Here are a few videos from my library. If you have not watched them yet, go ahead and watch them and tell me what you think. Until next time, friends, stay safe and goodbye.